The autumn sun was setting over the quiet suburban streets of Columbus, Ohio, casting long shadows across the parking lot of a McDonald's restaurant. It was just another Tuesday evening for the staff and customers until Secret Service agents walked through the front door at exactly 6:45 p.m. Mary Johnson, the restaurant manager, almost dropped her coffee mug when she received the call. "Ma'am, this is Special Agent Roberts with the Secret Service. Former President Donald Trump will be making a stop at your location in approximately 15 minutes. Please maintain normal operations but clear the drive-through lane." The small McDonald's restaurant, located at the corner of Maple and Oak Street, had been serving the community for over 20 years. Its red and yellow sign glowed brightly against the darkening sky, and the smell of fresh fries and burgers filled the air. It wasn't the fanciest place in town, but it was clean, well-maintained, and popular with local families. Inside, the evening crew rushed to make sure everything was perfect. Jenny, a young cashier, quickly wiped down all the tables one extra time. Mike, the kitchen supervisor, checked the food inventory to ensure they had enough of everything. They had no idea why Trump had chosen their location, but they were determined to be ready. The Secret Service agents moved swiftly and professionally through the restaurant. They checked every corner, every bathroom, and every possible entry point. Agent Sarah Martinez coordinated with local police to secure the perimeter, while Agent Tom Wilson established a command post in the manager's office. Regular customers watched with a mixture of curiosity and excitement as men in dark suits spoke quietly into their earpieces. At exactly 7:00 p.m., a line of black SUVs pulled into the parking lot. The vehicles moved in perfect formation, creating a protective barrier around the central car. The restaurant's regular customers pressed their faces against the windows, phones ready to capture the moment. Parents lifted their children to get a better view of the unexpected event unfolding before them. Donald Trump stepped out of his vehicle, wearing his signature navy blue suit and red tie. Despite the long day of campaign activities, he appeared energetic and ready to connect with voters. His security team formed a protective circle around him, their eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. The former president's trademark smile was visible as he waved to the growing crowd of onlookers who had gathered outside. "Let's grab some great American food," Trump announced cheerfully as he entered the restaurant. The smell of fresh French fries and grilled burgers filled the air. The kitchen staff, who had been told to continue normal operations, worked diligently behind the counter, trying their best to act natural despite the extraordinary circumstances. The restaurant's regular dinner crowd had grown as word spread through social media about the surprise visit. Local residents rushed to the McDonald's, hoping to catch a glimpse of the former president. Cars filled the parking lot, and people lined up outside, creating an impromptu campaign stop atmosphere. Manager Mary Johnson stood proudly at the counter, her initial nervousness replaced with professional composure. She had worked at this McDonald's for 12 years, but never had she imagined serving a former president. The security team had already reviewed the menu and approved specific items that could be prepared under their supervision. What nobody realized at that moment was that this routine campaign stop was about to become something much more significant. Among the customers seated in the restaurant were faces both innocent and suspicious, each with their own story and purpose for being there on this particular evening. The evening shift workers moved efficiently behind the counter, preparing orders as if this were any other Tuesday night. But there was an undeniable electricity in the air, a sense that something extraordinary was happening in their small corner of Ohio. The security team maintained their vigilant watch, while Trump moved through the restaurant, shaking hands and greeting supporters with his characteristic enthusiasm. Little did anyone know that in just a few minutes, a 5-year-old boy's action would transform this simple campaign stop into an event that would be discussed across the nation. The pieces were all in place, and the stage was set for an unexpected drama that would unfold within these familiar red and yellow walls. In the far corner of the McDonald's, 5-year-old Tommy Matthews sat quietly with his babysitter, Sarah Wilson. His small legs swung back and forth under the table as he enjoyed his Happy Meal chicken nuggets. Tommy wasn't like most kindergartners. His bright blue eyes seemed to notice everything around him, a trait he had inherited from his parents, both respected officers in the local police department. Sarah watched as Tommy methodically arranged his French fries in neat rows, something he always did before eating them. She had been babysitting him for over a year now, chosen specifically because she was a criminal justice student at the nearby university. Tommy's parents, Officers Jack and Emily Matthews were attending an emergency training session at the police station that evening. What made Tommy special wasn't just his careful attention to detail. From an early age, his parents had taught him to be aware of his surroundings. They had turned it into a game they called Police Detective, where Tommy would practice spotting things that seemed out of place. This training wasn't meant to scare him, but to make him feel confident and prepared, just like his mom and dad. As the excitement of Trump's arrival filled the restaurant, Tommy remained focused on his own quiet observations. His eyes moved from person to person, just like his parents had taught him. He noticed the lady with 3 kids by the drink machine, the elderly couple sharing an apple pie, and the businessman typing on his laptop. But something else caught his attention, something that made him put down his half-eaten chicken nugget. Through the kitchen's back door, which had been propped open slightly by a mop bucket, Tommy saw a man enter who was different from the others. While everyone else was wearing normal clothes or work uniforms, this man wore a thick jacket despite the warm evening. Tommy remembered his dad's words. Sometimes, buddy, things that look strange probably are strange. The man moved awkwardly through the kitchen area, keeping his head down. None of the kitchen staff seemed to notice him. They were all too busy preparing food and dealing with the excitement of Trump's visit. Tommy watched as the man positioned himself near the condiment station, his right hand never leaving the inside of his jacket. Sarah was distracted by her phone, texting updates about Trump's surprise visit to her friends. She didn't notice Tommy's small body becoming tense, his trained eyes following the suspicious man's every move. In his mind, Tommy went through the checklist his parents had taught him about spotting danger. Look for things that don't match, people who move differently, or anyone trying too hard not to be seen. The restaurant had gotten even more crowded as Trump moved through the space, shaking hands and taking pictures with excited customers. Secret Service agents scanned the room continuously, but their attention was divided among the many people trying to get close to the former president. The man in the jacket had managed to blend in with the crowd, but Tommy's eyes never left him. Tommy remembered the special lessons his parents had given him about staying safe. They had taught him about guardian angels, the police officers and security people who help keep everyone safe. But they had also taught him that sometimes even guardian angels need help from regular people who notice important things. His mom's words echoed in his mind. If you ever see something that feels wrong, Tommy, it's okay to tell someone. Trust your feelings. His dad had added, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is speak up when something doesn't look right. As Trump's path through the restaurant brought him closer to where the suspicious man stood, Tommy noticed the man's hand grip something inside his jacket more tightly. The man's face had begun to sweat, even though the restaurant's air conditioning kept the room cool. These were more signs that Tommy had been taught to watch for, signs that something wasn't right. In that moment, Tommy knew he had to do something. His parents had prepared him for this, though they had hoped he would never need to use his training. As he watched the scene unfold before him, Tommy remembered the special signal his parents had taught him, a simple gesture that could alert others to danger without causing panic. The noise in McDonald's grew louder as more people squeezed inside, hoping to catch a glimpse of Donald Trump. The sound of excited chatter, clicking cameras, and children's laughter filled the air. But for Tommy Matthews, all these sounds seemed far away. His complete attention was focused on the suspicious man who had entered through the kitchen's back door. Tommy's heart beat faster as he watched the man move closer to where Trump was greeting people. The former president was now just 3 tables away, posing for selfies with an excited family. The Secret Service agents stood nearby, their eyes constantly moving across the crowd, but they hadn't noticed what Tommy had seen. The way the suspicious man's hand kept touching something inside his jacket, or how his eyes darted nervously toward every exit. In his mind, Tommy could hear his mother's calm voice from their practice sessions at home. Remember, sweetheart, if you ever need to warn someone without using words, you can use our special signal. They had practiced it many times in their living room, turning it into a game. His father would pretend to be different people, a police officer, a teacher, or a store worker, and Tommy would practice giving the signal. The signal was simple but clear. 3 fingers pressed against the chest while tapping the shoulder twice. Tommy's parents had explained that this was a special code used by police families. It's like a secret handshake, his dad had said, but it means danger is near. They had chosen this signal because it looked natural, like a child fidgeting, but would be recognized by people who knew what to look for. Sarah, Tommy's babysitter, was still focused on her phone, now showing her friends the pictures she had taken of Trump's arrival. She didn't notice Tommy's small hands beginning to move, or the serious look that had replaced his usual cheerful smile. In Tommy's young mind, he knew this was not a practice session, this was real. The suspicious man had now positioned himself near the drink machine, less than 10 feet from where Trump would pass. Tommy could see sweat running down the man's face, even though the restaurant was cool. The man's jacket was zipped up to his neck, despite everyone else in the restaurant wearing light clothing in the warm evening. Trump's path through the restaurant would bring him right past Tommy's corner table. The young boy knew this was his chance to make a difference, just like his parents did every day as police officers. His hands felt sweaty, and his chicken nuggets lay forgotten on his plate. The moment had to be perfect. Trump needed to see the signal, but the suspicious man couldn't notice Tommy giving it. As Trump came closer, Tommy carefully slid forward in his seat. He remembered his mother's words: "Stay calm, move slowly, and act natural." The former president was now just 2 tables away, smiling and waving at people as he moved through the crowd. The suspicious man's hand moved deeper inside his jacket, and Tommy saw something dark partially visible when the jacket shifted. With careful movements, Tommy raised his right hand to his chest. He could see Trump clearly now, just a few feet away. The boy's small fingers formed the signal. 3 fingers pressed firmly against his chest. Trump's eyes swept across the room, moving from face to face as he greeted his supporters. Just as the former president's gaze reached Tommy's corner, the boy tapped his shoulder twice, completing the warning signal. Time seemed to slow down in that moment. Tommy watched as Trump's eyes met his, then moved to his hand position. The boy saw the exact moment understanding crossed the former president's face. Trump's familiar smile remained in place, but his face lost its color, turning noticeably pale. Years of security briefings and training had taught him to recognize various emergency signals, including this one. The 5-year-old boy maintained perfect calm, just as his parents had taught him. He kept his eyes steady, giving a slight nod toward where the suspicious man stood. In that brief exchange, without a single word being spoken, vital information had been passed. Tommy had done exactly what his parents had prepared him for. He had spotted danger and warned someone who could help, all without drawing attention to himself. Donald Trump had seen many things during his years as president and businessman, but the sight of a 5-year-old boy giving a police danger signal made his blood run cold. His face turned pale, though years of public appearances helped him maintain his outward smile. 20 feet away, the suspicious man in the heavy jacket shifted his weight, unaware that his presence had been detected. In the split second after seeing Tommy's signal, Trump's mind raced through his security briefings. During his presidency, he had received extensive training about emergency signals used by law enforcement families. The 3-finger chest press with shoulder taps was unmistakable. It meant immediate danger was present. The fact that it came from a child made it even more crucial to take seriously. Secret Service agent Roberts noticed the subtle change in Trump's demeanor immediately. He had protected the former president long enough to read even the smallest shifts in his behavior. Trump continued to smile and wave, but his body language had changed. Agent Roberts followed Trump's occasional glances toward the drink station area, where the man in the jacket stood trying to blend in with the crowd. Tommy remained perfectly still in his corner, his small hands now folded in his lap. Sarah, his babysitter, had finally put down her phone and was watching Trump's approach with excitement. She had no idea that her young charge had just triggered a silent alarm that was about to change everything in the crowded restaurant. Trump's security training kicked in automatically. He knew he couldn't suddenly change direction or show any sign of alarm that might trigger the suspicious man into taking immediate action. Instead, he continued his casual pace through the restaurant, stopping to shake hands and pose for photos. But with each movement, he was carefully positioning himself away from the drink station while keeping the suspicious man in his line of sight. The former president's ears picked up the subtle changes in his security team's radio chatter. Code words passed quietly between agents as they responded to their protectees' changed behavior. Agent Martinez, positioned near the front door, noticed that Trump was using an old distress signal they had established. Running his left hand through his hair twice meant he had spotted a credible threat. The temperature in the restaurant seemed to rise as tension built invisibly in the air. Most customers continued their excited chatter, taking photos and trying to get close to Trump. But the Secret Service agents had begun to move with new purpose. the casual scanning of the room becoming more focused and deliberate. Trump maintained his public persona perfectly, even as his mind worked through various scenarios. The boy's warning had been clear, and the suspicious man's behavior matched known threat patterns. The heavy jacket, the nervous movements, the positioning near a high-traffic area, these were all red flags that his security training had taught him to recognize. As he posed for another photo with a young family, Trump caught a glimpse of Tommy still sitting quietly in his corner. The boy's training showed in his calm demeanor. He wasn't panicking or drawing attention to himself. Trump thought about his own grandchildren, about how this brave young boy was doing something that even many adults might hesitate to do. The suspicious man had begun to move slightly, adjusting his position to maintain a clear line of sight as Trump progressed through the restaurant. His hand remained inside his jacket, and now Trump could see what had alarmed Tommy, the unusual bulge that suggested a concealed weapon. With practiced ease, Trump reached for his phone as if to check a message. His security detail was trained to recognize this movement as well. When the former president held his phone at this specific angle, it meant he needed to make an emergency call without drawing attention. Years of dealing with potential threats had led to the development of these subtle signals and responses. The next few seconds would be critical. Trump knew he needed to alert local law enforcement without causing panic in the crowded restaurant. One wrong move could trigger a dangerous reaction from the suspicious man. The former president's face remained friendly and engaged with his supporters, but his mind was racing through emergency protocols, all thanks to a 5-year-old boy's silent warning. The McDonald's restaurant buzzed with excitement, but beneath the surface of happy chatter and camera clicks, a silent emergency response was taking shape. Donald Trump, still wearing his practiced smile, held his phone at the exact angle his security team recognized as their signal for immediate danger. His fingers moved swiftly across the screen, appearing to take a selfie with nearby supporters. Instead of opening the camera, Trump pressed a special combination of numbers on his phone. This was a direct emergency line to local law enforcement, set up specifically for his campaign visits. The phone connected instantly, and Trump began speaking in what seemed like casual conversation to those around him. "Hey John, great to hear from you," Trump said cheerfully into the phone, using a predetermined code phrase. "Code Delta at the Maple Street McDonald's. Possible armed subject, civilian signal received." His words sounded like a friendly chat to anyone listening, but to the emergency dispatcher on the other end, it was an urgent alert for immediate response. Secret Service Agent Wilson had already begun the subtle evacuation process. He moved through the crowd, whispering to the restaurant staff and certain customers. "We need you to calmly walk toward the exit," he would say quietly. "Don't run, don't panic, just walk normally to your car." The agents had practiced this type of evacuation countless times, knowing that preventing panic was as important as removing people from danger. The suspicious man shifted uncomfortably near the drink station, his hands still hidden inside his jacket. He watched as people began to leave the restaurant, but the movement was so natural that he didn't realize it was a planned evacuation. Some customers were still taking photos and trying to get close to Trump, making the scene appear normal. Tommy Matthews remained perfectly still in his corner, watching everything unfold. His babysitter Sarah had noticed the change in the atmosphere and pulled out her phone again, but this time she was texting Tommy's parents about the strange feeling in the air. She didn't understand what was happening, but her criminal justice training made her sense that something wasn't right. Trump continued his careful movement through the restaurant, but he was now following a specific pattern. With each step and each handshake, he was creating distance between himself and the suspicious man while also moving closer to a protected exit point. His security detail moved with him like a well-rehearsed dance, their positions shifting to maintain maximum protection. Outside the restaurant, police cars began to arrive silently, their lights off to avoid drawing attention. Officers positioned themselves strategically around the building, using their vehicles and nearby structures as cover. The local SWAT team, which had been conducting training nearby, was already suiting up in the parking lot of a closed business down the street. Inside, the restaurant manager Mary Johnson showed remarkable composure as she followed the Secret Service's instructions. She quietly directed her staff to move away from the kitchen area, using the excuse of needing to restock the front counter. This subtle movement created a clear space around the suspicious man, making it easier for security to monitor him. The number of customers in the restaurant had dropped by half, but the evacuation was so smooth that it seemed natural, as if people were simply finishing their meals and leaving. Trump's security detail had positioned themselves strategically, ready to react at a moment's notice. Agent Martinez had moved closer to Tommy and Sarah, preparing to protect them if needed. Through it all, Trump maintained his public persona perfectly. He continued taking photos with remaining customers, his smile never wavering. But his positioning was precise, ensuring that he always had multiple agents between himself and the suspicious man. The years of security training were paying off. No one panicked, no one ran, and the potential threat remained unaware that he had been detected. The dispatcher's voice came through Trump's earpiece, disguised as a phone call. Local units in position. SWAT team ready. Awaiting your signal. Everything was in place for what would happen next. The smooth evacuation would soon shift into rapid intervention, all triggered by a 5-year-old boy's silent warning. The next 60 seconds in McDonald's played out like a perfectly choreographed dance. Outside, police officers had surrounded the building, their movements hidden by the gathering darkness. Inside, the remaining customers had no idea they were about to witness something extraordinary. The suspicious man, later identified as Marcus Reynolds, felt the sweat running down his back under the heavy jacket. His hand gripped the concealed weapon tightly, not realizing that his every movement was now being watched by trained professionals. He took one step forward, then froze as he noticed something unusual. The restaurant had become much quieter than before. Trump's security team had positioned themselves strategically throughout the space. Agent Roberts stood near the drink station, pretending to fill a cup with ice. Agent Martinez had moved closer to Tommy and Sarah, appearing to tie his shoe. 3 other agents had formed a subtle barrier between Trump and Reynolds, their positions looking casual to untrained eyes. The former president raised his hand to adjust his tie, the final signal. In that instant, everything changed. The front doors burst open as SWAT team members rushed in, their movements swift but controlled. At the same time, Secret Service agents revealed their weapons, their voices cutting through the sudden silence with clear commands. FBI, don't move. Hands where we can see them. The shout came from Agent Wilson, who had emerged from behind the counter. Reynolds tried to pull the weapon from his jacket, but before he could move, 2 SWAT team members had reached him. Their trained hands quickly secured his arms while another agent carefully removed the weapon from his jacket. Tommy watched the scene unfold with wide eyes, his small hands gripping the edge of his table. Sarah had pulled him close protectively, finally understanding why her young charge had been so quiet and watchful. The remaining customers pressed themselves against the walls, many holding up phones to record the unexpected drama. Reynolds was quickly brought to the ground, his face showing shock and disbelief. The heavy jacket was removed, revealing not just one weapon, but also several suspicious packages strapped to his chest. The SWAT team's bomb disposal expert moved in immediately, his trained eyes assessing the situation. Building secure, came the call from the team leader. More police officers entered through all doors, quickly establishing a safe perimeter around Reynolds. The restaurant's customers were now quickly but calmly evacuated, many still trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Trump's security detail had moved him to a protected corner, but the former president insisted on staying until he knew everyone was safe. His eyes moved to the corner where Tommy sat with Sarah, and he gave a slight nod of appreciation to the young boy who had made this intervention possible. The local police chief, David Anderson, entered the restaurant and was quickly briefed on the situation. His face showed both relief and concern as he learned how close they had come to a potential disaster. The bomb squad had already begun their careful work, dismantling the suspicious packages with precise movements. Reynolds remained silent as he was handcuffed and searched. The FBI agents who had arrived on scene found multiple fake IDs in his pockets and a detailed floor plan of the restaurant. It was clear that this had been a carefully planned attack, foiled only by the keen eyes of a 5-year-old boy. The entire intervention had taken less than 2 minutes from start to finish. Outside, curious onlookers had gathered behind the police line, trying to understand what was happening. News vans began arriving, their reporters already piecing together the story of how a routine campaign stop had turned into a major security incident. Tommy sat quietly in his corner, still watching everything with careful eyes. Sarah held him close, her criminal justice training helping her understand just how significant this moment was. Through the restaurant windows, They could see the flashing lights of police cars and ambulances, their red and blue colors painting the evening sky. Agent Martinez approached Tommy and Sarah, his stern face softening into a gentle smile. "You did a great job, young man," he said quietly. "Your parents would be very proud." Tommy nodded seriously, understanding that he had done exactly what his parents had trained him to do. He had spotted danger and helped keep people safe. Officers Jack and Emily Matthews arrived at the McDonald's in record time, their police cruiser's tires screeching as they pulled into the crowded parking lot. They had received Sarah's confused text message, followed immediately by an official alert about an incident at the restaurant. Their hearts had nearly stopped when they realized their 5-year-old son was in the middle of it all. The scene outside the restaurant looked like something from a movie. Police cars, SWAT vehicles, and FBI units filled the parking lot. News helicopters circled overhead, their spotlights illuminating the area in harsh white light. A crowd of onlookers stood behind yellow police tape, their phones raised to capture every moment. When Jack and Emily showed their badges and identified themselves as Tommy's parents, they were immediately escorted inside. They found their son sitting calmly in a booth, drinking a fresh chocolate milkshake that Agent Martinez had bought for him. Sarah sat beside him, still looking shocked by everything that had happened. "Mommy, Daddy," Tommy called out when he saw them, his face breaking into a big smile. "I did the signal just like you taught me." His parents wrapped him in a tight hug, their police training temporarily forgotten as relief washed over them. They had taught Tommy the emergency signal, hoping he would never need to use it, but tonight it had helped prevent a potential disaster. Donald Trump, who had refused to leave until he could properly thank the young hero, walked over to the family. His security detail remained close, but their postures were more relaxed now that the threat had been contained. The former president's face showed genuine emotion as he approached Tommy and his parents. "Your son is an extraordinary young man," Trump said, kneeling down to be at eye level with Tommy. "He showed incredible bravery and awareness tonight. The signal he gave me, that's something we learned about in security briefings, but I never expected to see it from someone so young." Emily explained how they had trained Tommy from an early age to be aware of his surroundings. "We made it like a game," she said, her voice full of pride. "We never wanted to frighten him, just teach him to be observant." Jack added that they had included the police signal in their family emergency planning, hoping it would make Tommy feel more confident and prepared. The FBI agents interviewing Sarah were amazed at how much Tommy had noticed. He described every movement the suspect had made, every nervous gesture, and exactly how he had entered through the kitchen door. His detailed observations would prove invaluable to their investigation. Local Police Chief Anderson approached the group, holding a small object in his hand. It was a junior police badge, specially reserved for community heroes. "Tommy Matthews," he said formally, "for your bravery and quick thinking, I'd like to present you with this badge. You showed the kind of awareness and courage that we look for in our best officers." Tommy's eyes grew wide as the chief pinned the badge to his shirt. He stood up straight and proud, just like he had seen his parents do at police ceremonies. The restaurant staff, who had stayed to help with the investigation, broke into applause. Even the hardened SWAT team members smiled at the touching scene. The FBI's preliminary investigation had revealed just how serious the situation had been. Marcus Reynolds was wanted in 3 states for various crimes, and the weapons and devices found on him suggested he had been planning something terrible. If not for Tommy's warning, the evening could have ended very differently. Sarah, still processing everything that had happened, couldn't believe she had spent the entire evening texting her friends without noticing anything unusual. "I'm studying criminal justice," she said shakily, but Tommy spotted what I missed completely. Agent Martinez assured her that even trained professionals sometimes missed things that children noticed, precisely because children often paid attention to details adults overlooked. As the evening wound down, Tommy began to yawn, the excitement of the day finally catching up with him. His parents prepared to take him home, but not before Trump made a special request. "Tomorrow," the former president said, "I'd like to have a proper ceremony at the police department to recognize Tommy's bravery. Would that be okay?" Tommy's eyes lit up with excitement, even as they grew heavy with sleep. The morning sun shone brightly on the Columbus Police Department headquarters as crowds gathered for a special ceremony. News vans lined the street, and reporters set up their cameras on the building's front steps. Everyone wanted to capture the moment when a 5-year-old boy would be officially recognized for his extraordinary actions the night before. Tommy Matthews stood in front of the mirror at home, carefully adjusting his new blue suit. His mother, Emily, helped him with his tie while his father, Jack, polished the junior police badge that now held a place of honor on Tommy's jacket. The young hero had slept soundly through the night, while his parents had stayed awake, still amazed by their son's bravery and quick thinking. At the police station, Chief Anderson had arranged everything perfectly. The ceremony would be held in the main conference room, which had been decorated with blue and gold ribbons. A small podium had been set up at the front, with a special platform behind it so Tommy could see over it when he spoke. Officers from various departments filled the rows of chairs, all wanting to honor the young boy who had helped prevent a potential tragedy. Donald Trump arrived early, having postponed his campaign schedule to attend the ceremony. His security team had spent the night reviewing protocols and making changes based on what they had learned from the incident. The former president had also arranged for a special surprise for Tommy, a custom-made child-sized police uniform, complete with a real police radio that could receive transmissions from his parents' units. As Tommy entered the conference room with his parents, the entire room stood and applauded. The young boy walked confidently to the front, remembering what his father had told him. "Just be yourself, buddy. You're already a hero." Sarah, his babysitter, sat in the front row, beaming with pride at her young charge. Chief Anderson began the ceremony with a detailed account of the previous night's events. He explained how Tommy's careful observation and proper use of the police danger signal had potentially saved many lives. The FBI investigation had revealed that Marcus Reynolds had been planning a major attack, and Tommy's warning had allowed law enforcement to stop him before anyone got hurt. Trump took the podium next, speaking without his usual political style. Instead, he shared a personal story about how security training had saved his life before, but never had he expected to receive such a crucial warning from someone so young. He presented Tommy with a special Presidential Medal of Courage, a new award created specifically to honor young citizens who show extraordinary bravery. The ceremony continued with various speakers, including FBI agent Martinez, who announced that the Bureau would be updating its training programs to include information about the importance of maintaining family emergency signals. Sometimes, he said, the best security measures are the simplest ones, taught at home by caring parents. Local news stations broadcast the ceremony live, and hashtag Little Hero began trending on social media. Parents across the country started asking their police departments about family safety training programs. The simple signal that Tommy's parents had taught him was becoming a national topic of discussion. Tommy's story had sparked an important conversation about child safety and awareness. Police departments nationwide began developing family-friendly programs to teach children about situational awareness without causing fear. The Matthews family was invited to help create these programs, sharing their experience of making safety training feel like a game rather than a burden. As the ceremony concluded, Tommy stood at the podium to say a few words. His voice was clear and confident as he spoke into the microphone. "My mommy and daddy taught me that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. I just wanted to help keep everyone safe, like my parents do every day." The room erupted in applause once again. Chief Anderson announced that the department would be creating an annual Tommy Matthews Young Hero Award to recognize other children who showed exceptional courage and awareness in helping others. The first recipient would, of course, be Tommy himself. As photographers captured the final moments of the ceremony, Tommy stood between his parents, wearing his new police uniform and holding his medals. His story would be remembered not just as a tale of preventing a potential tragedy, but as an example of how simple family preparation and a child's careful attention could make a real difference in keeping communities safe.